Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the latest edition of Terrace Talk. Of course, the Championship resumes on Friday night for Norwich City after the brief FA Cup weekend. We've just had the 1-1 draw against Bristol Rovers. Norwich hoping to get back to Championship form with the trip to the MKM. With that, delighted to be joined by Ant Northgraves from the Hull and Back podcast. Ant, first and foremost, how are you? And I suppose, how are you feeling ahead of Friday night?
It's going to be a tough game. We've got a tough run of games at the minute. I think we've got Southampton and Sunderland after you guys as well. So Championship's not an easy league. We know that. The fixture list is never easy no matter where in the league the team is you're playing. But we don't usually tend to do very well against Norwich. So yeah, not looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been a lot. So I suppose a lot's happened since we spoke back on before the first game of the season. Now 26 games or 46 games, in the Championship. Of course, we've played 26 of them already. Hull currently 7th, 1 point outside the playoffs. What have you made of the season so far? It looks like it's been a pretty good campaign.
It has. It's been a really good campaign. I think realistically, all of us were expecting, mid-table-ish, top 10, something like that. But we found ourselves in a playoff chase, and considering our run of form over the last few weeks, around December time, we've been struggling to pick up consistent results because we're missing key players, and we just keep having a season where we manage to have a run together, and then one or two key players end up being injured, and it curtails it a bit. So, but for us to be 1 point outside the top 6 in January after a bad run of form and a lot of key players missing, gives us massive optimism that, when those players are back and we can bring a few new players in, that the form will pick up again and we can really make a chase for the top 6. So I feel like the expectations have maybe changed a bit, and we might actually see ourselves going in for a scrap for the playoff places.
Yeah, you mentioned that little wobble you've had, just 3 wins in the last 9 in all competitions. Is it just purely injuries and suspensions that have killed you? I think there was a poor refereeing decision the other week that maybe cost you as well. Has it kind of been those sort of factors that have caused the major issue?
Yeah, it's been a mixture of both. Bad luck. The officials have been poor for every side in the league. We're not alone in that respect. But it's. I feel like every club have got injury problems as well. But for our system and how important some of the players that we're missing are, i.e., Jaden Philogene and Liam Delap now as well. John Michael Serry's gone to AFCON. These players are absolutely vital to the style of player that we do. To creating chances and to the balance of the squad. I think we're very light in some areas anyway. So full-back positions, left back, Vinagre has been injured pretty much all season, and we don't have another left back to replace it for him. So we're now having to sort of do the whole square pegs in round hole scenario where, because we're missing certain players, we're having to play other players out of position to try and fill the 11. And obviously, no matter how good these players are and how much of a shift they'll put in that position, they're not going to be as good as they are in their natural position. So it leads to a kind of unbalanced squad, and it does reflect that sometimes in games. We're not getting blown away in games. We're always in them, which is a trademark of a Rosenia side. But like you say, we just miss that bit of cutting edge and maybe that bit of organisation towards the back because we're constantly having to rotate players in different positions at the minute. So yeah, the bad decision, the red card at Sheffield Wednesday was a bit of a joke, but like we say, a lot of the Championship clubs will see similar this season, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we've had a fair few of those this season so far. I think when we spoke back in August, you said sort of top half, top 10 would be a pretty good campaign for Hull. Yeah, I suppose 1 point outside the top 6, as I already mentioned. Where's the expectation now for the rest of the season? Is it getting in the playoffs? Would that be a failure if you didn't, do you think?
I don't think it'd be a failure. I think it would be sort of a result of bad injuries. The bad luck we've had in terms of injuries. But when we're looking at the players that we're supposedly trying to bring in, the firepower that we're looking to bring in, and hopefully if we can strengthen the areas we need to, like a left back, then why can't we? Is probably our view on it. If we finish just outside the playoffs, as long as we're in the battle for them, up till the last games, we've got something to play for. I think that's a successful season. And like we say, then in summer, the proper rebuild happens where, a lot of the players from the Shota Arveladze / Grant McCann era sort of, phased out and we can properly make it a Liam Rosenia side. Because at the moment, last season, halfway through last season and into this season, it's like a Liam Rosenia / previous regime hybrid. So we're doing well considering, but we're still not a full Liam Rosenia team. So when we get to that point, I think, we'll be all guns blazing. But like we say, this season, as long as we're in the discussion for the top 6, I think that's definitely a success for us.
Yeah, of course, the January transfer window is open, and I think Hull are making a few shockwaves with a potential signing that might be through the door by the time we come to the MKM on Friday. Fábio Carvalho, of course, played at Fulham in the Championship, ripped it up there, went to Liverpool, and he sort of made some, he's made a few appearances here and there, but he went on loan to Leipzig, maybe didn't quite get on very well there, but looks like he's going to be coming to Hull. How's the feeling? How are the fans feeling around that signing?
Oh, massive. I mean, when you're the kind of club that we are, where we're not very fashionable, you know, we don't have a spectacularly lavish history, things like that, you know, you don't think we should be signing these kind of players like your Jadon Philogines and John Michael Series and now we say Fábio Carvalho's, but the chairman's obviously got the gift of the gab. I think a lot of the players believe in what Liam Rosenior does. You know, he's very well respected as a manager. I mean, you know, you don't really hear anybody else say anything bad about him at all. So I think that the style of play, which has been something that he's said in interviews before, to play the play out from the back, sort of, you know, the more attractive style of player that fans usually want to see. Because we're playing that style, it means we can lure these kind of players in, because that's the style that the parent clubs want them to play, so they learn in that fashion. So yeah, it's exciting. I mean, someone like Carvalho can be a difference maker in a lot of games. So he could be the difference between a mid-table finish and top six. I mean, given our obviously lack of players in some positions at the minute, you know, the potential for our front line, if we get the players that we're after in, you know, Ryan Kent's been mentioned as well, Manuel Benson. So if a full strength side, our front four consisted of Liam Delap, Jadon Philogene, Fábio Carvalho, and Manuel Benson, that's a top six attack for me, definitely. So yeah, it's very exciting times. Hopefully we can you know, get the official announcement done tomorrow so we can actually play against Norwich, because our chairman's all but said he's signed yesterday, I believe, and we've still not announced him, so that's quite bizarre. But yeah, hopefully he plays against Norwich and we can bring a couple more of these players that we're rumoured to be bringing in through the door, so it leaves us for a good platform for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think a few from our end will be hoping he probably doesn't get registered by the time we come up on Friday. Lots of good attacking players, of course, you've mentioned there. The likes of Philogene and Delap look like they're going to be injured for Friday night, but seems to be a lot of still attacking talent in that side. The likes of Tufan's already got 7 goals this campaign. Connolly's got 8. Who's maybe the star man to look out for on Friday night, would you say?
I mean, Ozan Tufan's one of these really strange players where he's either a 1 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. There doesn't seem to be just a normal game from him. He's either unplayable or he's a passenger. So I feel like on that basis, if he turns up, very, very creative, dangerous player around the box. If he gets the ball in around the 16-yard area, he's always a danger to score. Connolly's performances haven't actually been that great, but he's been more of a come off the bench kind of player. The fact that he's our top scorer, despite not actually starting that many games, is quite bizarre. I think in that sense, his goals to game ratio, minutes per goal ratio, something like that's third highest in the league. So he's sort of been thrown into the starting 11 now, obviously because of injuries and that, and he scored a few goals recently. But yeah, we've got, there's still danger in our side. You know, there's still Scott Twine there as well, who's always a danger from set pieces too. So Connolly, Tufan, and Twine probably at the minute our biggest goal threats.
Yeah, intrigued to kind of get a feeling on what the atmosphere has been like at the MKM. I mean, there's been periods during kind of difficulty with ownership where it's been relatively empty compared to kind of the years in the Premier League. But I saw you sold out quite a recent game there against Sunderland. Maybe feels like the feel-good factor's back. What's the atmosphere been like this season?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. I mean, like you say, if you go back 2 or 3 years, we were having, you know, less than 10,000. There was a lot of fans staying away in boycott because of the owners, and the general direction of the club was never, you know, seen to be going upwards. It was always either we wanted to just stagnate or we would decline. You know, the previous owners, because we rejected the name change thing, they stopped putting money in, and when that happens, you know, the club can never go up. But yeah, the new owner's come in, been absolutely fantastic. Liam Rosenior was a genius appointment, obviously with his connection to the area and everything like that, and his ideology and the way he wants to play it just fits perfectly. It seems like you know, a bit of a match made in heaven, them two together. So, you know, a generous and ambitious chairman linked with a young, hungry, aspiring manager is a very dangerous combo, and we're loving it at the minute. And like you say, he's brought the fans back. It's cheap tickets. I think away fans pay for cheap tickets too. We're getting consistently 20,000 again in the stadium, so it's all good. And yeah, it's just positive around the club. We're all pulling in the same direction again. So it's nice to have the soul of the club back and actually feel positive for a change. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, you mentioned him a few times there, Liam Rosenior, been in charge now for a little while again, a Hull man, as you mentioned. what sort of has he brought to the club, I suppose, especially this season where it seems to be clicking a little bit more? What sort of style, what sort of tactical approach will he adopt for this game?
Yeah, so he's very stubborn in his style of play. He has an idea of playing, and we will stick to that. So it's, we're going to take risks. We're going to play out from the back. We're going to want to try and control the midfield if we can, try and control possession. Usually we would exploit the wide areas and try and, have our expressive flair players like, i.e. your Philogines and your Delaps that are just frighteningly direct in the way they run at defenders, cause havoc, win free kicks or get into the box and create chances. But, he's kind of had to show his tactical nous and his adaptability recently because of the players we're missing. But we're still trying to play that same way. We're just maybe less effective in the offensive third now. It's been brilliant. Like what he does and the standards he sets for players. I mean, he brought in Malcolm Ebiway on loan last season. It was his top transfer target. A lot of Championship clubs were after him as well. And his attitude was just basically like he didn't want to be here. So it was weird that he signed if he didn't. But Rosinia, pretty much cast him out as soon as he did. He will not accept any player to fall below the standards that he sets. Everyone has to work hard. They have to work as a team. It's always we. If we're losing, he's happy to take the full blame on him. He says, if flat out say, blame me. I asked them to play this way. We sometimes make mistakes, give the ball away at the back, and it leads to us conceding. But he's one of these managers who the players trust, and I think one of the most important things he's been doing as well is he likes sort of refiring players' careers. I mean, like Aaron Connolly's a perfect example. He's since his breakthrough at Brighton, he's not really hit the heights that people expected him to. His attitude was put into question, and Middlesbrough fans didn't have a good word to say about him. But since he's come here, he's revitalised. Rosinia's had that man-to-man influence on him and brought the best out of him. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. And like we say, he's still young, he's still learning. He's a brand new manager, and the fact that he's proven his credentials so early in the career can only mean good things going forward in the future.
Yeah, he seems like there's a lot of love for Rossini, maybe less so for David Wagner at Norwich City under pressure. Been a difficult season for us. Just interested to get your thoughts on watching. Have you seen much of Norwich from afar and kind of maybe surprised that they're having the season they are, or maybe expected it?
I am to an extent, because at the beginning of the season, the way you were playing in the first few games, obviously you beat us on the first game, and you had a few good results after that. And I thought, these guys look the real deal this year. The complete opposite to how you were last season. Coming down from the Premier League, a lot of people expected you to be up there fighting to go back up again. And you guys, Watford, similar as well, didn't really hit the heights that people expected you to. But this season, it looked like you'd started in a new fashion. It was the new, Wagner finally had his full summer with them, and it clicked. But then you went on a horrendous run, and you seem to have been quite inconsistent since that. So yeah, it's been pretty bizarre, I think, from an outside perspective, looking at Norwich, because you've definitely got the ability and the players there to be a side that should be finishing in the top six, but you don't quite seem to be getting there. And I as obviously a neutral, can't quite put my finger on why. Obviously, you guys will know more than me, but yeah, it's Norwich are a threat to everybody, but it depends which Norwich turns up from my perspective.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty spot-on assessment. And with that, going to turn the attention now forward to Friday night's game. I think Hull's not been a particularly happy hunting ground for Norwich, not won there since 2007, but they have only lost one of the last 5 games, which of course was last season at the MKM. Thoughts on the game? How are the Hull fans feeling, and a score prediction to round it off?
Yeah, I think it'd be. We're obviously not at full strength at the minute, and I think if we get anything from any game we're playing at the minute, I'd take a draw against Norwich. I'd be very happy with that, especially going into Southampton and Sunderland. It's one of those games where we could easily get turned over 2 or 3-0, but we could easily put a dog in display and win, 2-1, something like that. Any result is a fair bet for me on this one. I think the general optimism amongst our fans has picked up, obviously because of the new transfer rumours and whatnot, and the players coming in. We were kind of, with the recent run, we were perhaps maybe a little bit worried, but there's now like a good transfer story to try and bring that optimism back in a fan base. So I think a lot of fans are going there expecting it. I mean, we're good at home. I think we've only lost twice this season. So I think we'll definitely give you a game. Our ability to come back as well, if we go 1 or 2 down, I think we've got 15, 16 points from losing positions this season. So we're a never say die kind of side this year. But with that, you've got Josh Sargent's back as well, isn't he? So he's going to be a threat, and we're missing our biggest threats. I mean, Liam Delap's going to be a massive, massive miss to the way we play. So I'm expecting us to be quite toothless in the final third, And we're always quite susceptible to conceding soft goals. We don't really keep clean sheets. So for me, I can't see us winning personally. I'm going to go for a score draw of 1-1.
Yeah, I think most Norwich fans would probably take that, to be honest, given the mood and the feeling, I suppose, amongst the fans at the moment. I'm just finally, Ant, do you want to plug your podcast and where Hull and Norwich fans can find the content?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're basically primarily a Hull City podcast, which is quite obvious, but we do tend to do opposition previews such as this one on ours. So it's always worth a follow to see, obviously, a Norwich fan's perspective too. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then you can find our episodes on all the usual audio podcast providers and on YouTube. Just search the Hull and Back podcast.
There we go. We'll link it all down below. Ant, really do appreciate the time this evening. Of course, we're hoping for a good game on Friday night under the lights at the MKM. From a Norwich City perspective, of course, we go in there hoping to do the double over Hull this season and try and close the gap to the playoffs. I think a defeat would maybe burst that bubble even more and put more pressure under David Wagner. So we'll see what we get. And, of course, hopefully for all the Norwich fans travelling up there, safe travels and, of course, bring the noise and hopefully the boys will give you a positive result. We'll see you at Friday night at the MKM and that will round off this week's edition of the Terrace Talk Show.